There was a lot going on in this episode. Hey YouTube, welcome back to SIBZ, West Coast, East Coast siblings. Today we are covering episode 5 of HBO Max's miniseries, The Flight Attendant. Every week it's getting better and better. So before we get into the biggest takeaways and sort of break down the episode, don't forget to like this video if you like this video, comment, subscribe, and click the bell so you can be notified of all things SIBZ. Getting right into it. In episode 5 we have a whole lot of drama, so I'm gonna go through some honorable mentions and then we'll get to the 3 biggest takeaways. Ignore me if I'm looking down at my notes. So the first thing, Miranda is lying to Victor about having flown back to London and pretty much not looking into this Alex Sokolov thing anymore. She messed up. She was supposed to do something with Alex or for him or something for Victor to Alex, and she didn't do it, and she feels really responsible, so that's what's keeping her around. She also has a manic personality and seems to be obsessed with Alex, so she is still not obeying orders from her big boss, but we don't know why. Another thing, we see more of Cassie's memories growing up. Through her memories, we see that her father was pretty abusive to her brother. It's pretty much his fault that she's an alcoholic, also that her memory is impaired. And also in this episode, Alex calls out Cassie for creating this idealistic story of him when she didn't really know him. She only knew him for a day, but then she goes snooping through his house and finds out that maybe he wasn't that great of a guy. Some weird, sketchy things going on with him, and he points the finger right back at her. He's saying, no, you're drawn to disaster. You ran as a 10-year-old child to a crashed plane site. And we see later on in this episode that that might be the case. Now, getting into the biggest takeaways. Biggest takeaway number 1, Alex Sokolov seems to have stolen $200 million from Lionfish, which is the company that his parents have been laundering money to through Unisphere. Obviously, Cassie immediately thinks that somebody's after him for the money. They probably killed him for it, and they probably think that she has it. While she's in the warehouse with Max looking at all of this, there's a list of people. Cassie's face shows up, Miranda's face shows up. Now, they're the only 2 people in this list whose faces are pending. Everyone else has been closed. So more than likely, they're killing off people who think more than likely, someone is killing people off that had to do with Alex and this $200 million that is missing from Lionfish. Biggest takeaway number 2, Annie finally pays back the company that got Cassie out of the Sokolov's house during Alex's funeral. Cassie's involved in some big, intense stuff and is dangerous, right? So she puts her neck out for Cassie, does this favor, but now of course the company that gave her the favor, they want payback. So they tell Annie to basically slip with something along the lines of cyanide pills to this prisoner, and he kills himself. Pretty sad. Obviously this action could get Annie disbarred, and she admits to Max that she's not even sure if she believes Cassie right now because there are no witnesses, there's no real proof of anything that she's claiming, and she's an alcoholic. But she's like, that's my friend, so I'm gonna stick with her. Very, very interesting. All of this leads us to biggest takeaway number 3. Max gets hit by a car. Let's back up and talk about how Max gets hit by a car. So, Cassie and Max break into a Lionfish warehouse. They find all of these supercomputers stacked up. They manage to figure out that Alex stole $200 million from Lionfish. They find the list of people who are all dead except Cassie and Miranda. Max figures out this information, they find out that someone is onto them, and so they run. They're running for their lives, and a car comes up. Max pushes Cassie out of the way, and the car hits Max, flips him over. He's on the ground. We don't know if he's dead yet, but it looks pretty bad. I hope he doesn't die. This entire episode, Cassie has been convincing Max to help her in order to keep Annie from getting disbarred because of what she did for Cassie. Cassie's feeling guilty, so she guilts Max into helping her, and Max is like, well, I love Annie, I want her to be happy. She kind of pretty much puts him in front of this car and gets him hit. So that sucks. And at the beginning of the episode, Cassie was already dealing with guilt over Sabrina dying. She's connecting all the dots and realizing that she is the main factor in all of these deaths. And that goes back to what Alex said about Cassie being drawn to danger and tending to pull other people into it. Other people pay the consequences, not her. One would hope that Cassie would start taking responsibility for some of the things that she has done. Oh, another thing I wanted to point out, freaking Buckley. Buckley is so bizarre and so irrelevant in this entire story that I think he must be a plant by the FBI. He randomly shows up and is like, oh, hey, we should get together. Oh, hey, I really like you. Oh, hey, blah, blah, blah. It's like you're totally irrelevant and not important, therefore you must be a plant, I think. Also, I want to note that the FBI is on to Cassie. Cassie has this big diarrhea of the mouth, so now their ears are peaked, they're interested. The FBI is right behind her in terms of connecting the dots to the story, but they still think she's a guilty party, and they think that she knew Alex before the flight. I think that the FBI has put Buckley in to keep an eye on Cassie. The FBI agent that has normally been tailing Cassie kind of saw him, they made eye contact, the FBI agent walks away, and Buckley kind of pretends that he doesn't see him. So I think that's something interesting too. I feel like Buckley's got to be FBI. Megan is still up to no good, still being strangely sketchy. Important thing to know, and I'm sure this will come up later, she accidentally merged the calls between her and Cassie and her and the Korean dude. Cassie never answered the phone, so it hit her voicemail. Megan doesn't know, but there's a voicemail recording of her conversation with this Korean guy. Granted, it's not anything important, but it connects the two of them. So that's something to note too. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Lots of teeny little tidbits you want to make sure you pick up, and so you can connect all the dots at the end of it. We only have 3 episodes left, you guys. So the question is, will HBO Max be releasing these once a week until in the last episode, or are they going to release all 3 next Thursday? Who knows? Anyway, that's all I have for The Flight Attendant. Don't forget to like this video if you like this video. Comment, subscribe, and click the bell so you can be notified of all things SIBZ, including next week's coverage of The Flight Attendant. That is all that I have. I've ran through that rather quickly. Good night.